They called it the Unsinkable ship, a marvel of human engineering, luxury, and ambition. Built over 1,200 days with more than 2,000 workers, the RMS Titanic was meant to be a floating palace, a symbol of modern progress. But just 2 hours after it struck an iceberg, it was gone. What went so terribly wrong? Today, we re-diving into 6 critical mistakes that led to the tragic sinking of the Titanic, mistakes that even the most experienced eyes failed to see. If these had been avoided, the Titanic might have been remembered not as a disaster but as a triumph. So let's rewind history and uncover what really happened. Mistake number 1. Speed over safety. On April 10, 1912, Titanic was ready to begin its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City. The Atlantic Ocean was calm. The skies were clear. There were no signs of a storm. Over 1,500 passengers had boarded, while thousands more stood at the docks to witness the historic departure. No one, not the passengers, the crew, or the company executives, could have guessed that the ship carried 6 fatal flaws. At exactly 12 p.m., Titanic set sail. But almost immediately, its first major mistake began unfolding. Captain Edward Smith, a man with 40 years of experience at sea, was under immense pressure from the ship's owners to reach New York by April 17th. This tight deadline meant one thing: maximum speed from the very start. Instead of gradually increasing velocity and testing the ship's response, Titanic was pushed to cruise at full speed across the Atlantic, ignoring basic maritime safety protocols. This wasn't just poor decision-making. It was the first crack in the illusion of invincibility. Mistake number 2. Ignoring multiple iceberg warnings. 3 days into the voyage, Titanic was steadily cruising toward New York. It had made brief stops in France and Ireland and was now in the open sea. By the evening of April 14th, the ocean had turned eerily silent. A dense fog covered the water, reducing visibility significantly. That night, another ship just hours ahead of Titanic sent multiple wireless messages warning of floating icebergs directly in the ship's path. Experts believe at least 6 warnings were sent to Titanic's communication crew, but incredibly, they were either ignored or missed entirely, dismissed as routine traffic. The Titanic was a luxury vessel, and the wireless operators were more focused on relaying personal messages for the first-class passengers than on passing on critical safety alerts. Had the iceberg warnings been taken seriously, everything might have unfolded differently. Mistake number 2. Ignoring multiple iceberg warnings. 3 days into the voyage, Titanic was steadily cruising toward New York. It had made brief stops in France and Ireland and was now in the open sea. By the evening of April 14th, the ocean had turned eerily silent. A dense fog covered the water, reducing visibility significantly. That night, another ship just hours ahead of Titanic sent multiple wireless messages warning of floating icebergs directly in the ship's path. Experts believe at least 6 warnings were sent to Titanic's communication crew, but incredibly, they were either ignored or missed entirely, dismissed as routine traffic. The Titanic was a luxury vessel, and the wireless operators were more focused on relaying personal messages for the first-class passengers than on passing on critical safety alerts. Had the iceberg warnings been taken seriously, everything might have unfolded differently. The tragedy of the Titanic wasn't just about an iceberg. It was about overconfidence, pressure, poor communication, and the failure to listen to warnings. The so-called unsinkable ship was brought down not by nature, but by human error. Let this story be more than just a piece of history. Let it be a reminder, even the strongest can fall when they ignore the signs. Mistake number 3. No binoculars for the lookouts. Despite traveling at full speed in dangerous waters, the Titanic's lookouts didn't have a basic but essential tool: binoculars. Yes, they were alert. Yes, they were trained. But without binoculars, spotting icebergs in the dark from a distance was nearly impossible. By the time the iceberg came into view, it was already too late. One of the lookouts finally saw a massive iceberg, roughly the size of a football field. Dead ahead, he raised the alarm. But the ship was too close and moving too fast to avoid impact. Mistake number 4. Weak rivets, weak response. When Captain Smith received word of the iceberg, he immediately ordered the engines to be stopped and tried to turn the ship. And while this might have helped in most cases, It was simply too late. Titanic struck the iceberg on its starboard side, near the center, causing immediate structural damage. But it wasn't just the collision, it was what happened because of it. Experts believe the ship's rivets, the metal fasteners that held its steel plates together, were made of cast iron, not steel. Cast iron is brittle and cracks under pressure. So when the iceberg hit, many of the rivets snapped apart, allowing water to flood in rapidly. Had the construction used higher-grade materials, the hull might have held together and the disaster could have been averted. Mistake number 5. Not enough lifeboats for everyone after the collision. Panic spread across the ship. The crew and passengers realized the unthinkable was happening. Titanic was sinking. Water was flooding into the lower decks. And while the ship was designed to stay afloat even if 3 compartments filled with water, the iceberg had breached 4. The ship's designer had calculated that such damage would make it unsinkable, but nature had a different plan. Captain Smith sent out distress signals hoping for help. But with time running out, evacuation had to begin. And this is where another tragic mistake came into play. Titanic had space for 32 lifeboats, but only 20 were on board. With over 1,500 people needing evacuation, there simply weren't enough boats. Mistake number 6. Lifeboats launched half-empty to make matters worse. Even the 20 available lifeboats weren't used efficiently. In the chaos, many were launched half-empty. The first lifeboat was lowered into the ocean at 12:45 a.m., with only a fraction of its full capacity on board. Many first-class passengers were given priority, and fear drove rushed decisions. People assumed more boats would be available. But there weren't. Had each lifeboat been filled to capacity, hundreds more could have been saved. By 2:08 a.m., the lights on Titanic went out completely after a short circuit. And just minutes later, the mighty ship split in half. It took 2 hours and 40 minutes from the moment of impact for the Titanic to fully disappear beneath the icy Atlantic. Over 1,500 people died that night. And the freezing water, measured at just -2 degrees Celsius, 28 degrees Fahrenheit, meant that even those who survived the initial sinking had less than 30 minutes before hypothermia set in. Some say the actual death toll was even higher, as several undocumented passengers had boarded without tickets. Among the survivors, the majority were women and children, a testament to the bravery of those who gave up their seats. Captain Edward Smith, known for his years of service, spent his final hours helping others. He was the last person to jump from the sinking ship and never seen again. The sinking of the Titanic wasn't just a maritime disaster, it was a human one. A tragedy born from pride, pressure, and preventable mistakes. If you found this story powerful, help us keep history alive. Like, comment, and subscribe for more eye-opening stories from the past. Let us know in the comments, which mistake do you think was the most avoidable? And what lessons do you think the world still hasn't learned? We'll see you in the next video.